Hello everybody, welcome back to Its Current Year for another quick battle ladder replay. I know I've been away for a couple of days, been on holidays with my family, but had a few days here to recharge the batteries, and we're going to launch into a few replays here to finish the year and charge headlong into 2021 bigger and better than ever. So today we are playing the Vampire Counts up against the Skaven. I'm going to have a look at my opponent's build. He's gone quite a sort of tight formation here. Front line, obviously, just some Skaven Slave Spears, got some Clan Rat Spears on the outside, and in the middle here, just sort of holding firm, give you something to sort of retreat through with your Poison Wind Globadiers, which he's got here. Obviously, these guys are really strong in the meta at the moment as we go through the ground here with the debug camera, with their damage over time effect and just their ability just to basically just get reliable damage into good targets, whether they be single entities or value infantry or characters, anything you like. Up the back here we have a pretty elite line of troops. Blightscab's Plague Pack, which is a great pick against undead factions because with their Rabble Rouse ability, they give a immune to psychology. Probably like to see them a little bit more central. Probably sub them out for one of these Clan Rat Spears so they can also do a little bit of fighting, and their sort of their Rabble Rouse ability can hit a few more troops, but a good selection nonetheless. Council Guard, Storm Vermin, basically see them in most builds. And the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, the ROR Clan Rats with their flaming attacks. So we also have two Hell Pit Abominations. So we've got a very monster heavy Skaven list here. Obviously one of the best single entity monsters in the game with their regen and their too horrible to die proc. We've also got a Assassin here riding shotgun with the Gracier on a Screaming Bell. He's got Concealment Bombs, Assassin's Trophy, as well as the Rival Hide Talisman. So he's going to really nuke down some stats and potentially try and snipe necromancers, things like that. Gracier of Plague here has taken Scorch, obviously the Unholy Clamour from the Bell, but Vermintide, as well as the Warp Storm Scroll, which gives them basically a free cast of the Howling Warp Gale. So little bit light on for spells there, but basically a good centerpiece for the army with the passives from the Bell. Also got a Warplock Engineer with Howling Warp Gale and Warp Lightning. He's also got the Warpstone Armor, which is a great armor just at draining infantry and just getting, again, just consistent damage going down. So a pretty interesting Skaven force here, nice and tight, but certainly some very dangerous elements. For my force, obviously got the Zombie Tide in the front line. I have actually upgraded one to the Tithe with their extra unit models and slightly better stats, in inverted commas. But yeah, just front line of zombies. We've got the Sternsman Graveguard as well as the Königstein Stalkers. They're both getting buffed up by a Corpse Cart with an Unholy Lodestone. So the obviously the Rigor Mortis effect, but also if we can get the tooltip here, also we've got the Regeneration effect. So just keeping my my decent infantry in the fight, and also gives me something to retreat back to, I guess, with Black Knights, things like that. Even my characters can sit amongst there. We've got some Vargheists up in the sky. So 2 units of Vargheists here. They obviously got a pretty massive buff to their armor piercing. So they're going to try and do some work, try and get some cycle charges. 2 units of Felbat, basically just for disruption. Out here on the flank, we have the Hex Raids. Good source of mobile terror in this matchup. Also massive amounts of physical resistance. Going to have to be watching out for the Blightscabs, which I believe do magic damage. But other than that, they'll have some pretty nice targets. 2 units of Black Knights here, basically for sweeping duties in the back line. They're also quite good at just cycle charging down sort of crappy infantry, which the Skaven will bring. We've got the Forbidden Rod Summoner Necromancer here. Again, he's buffing Winds of Magic. He's also does provide a regen aura, and we have the Strigoi Ghoul King up in the sky on his Terror Guy. So I like the Strigoi Ghoul King. He's a bit of a favorite of mine. He's got decent items which are also cheap with the Power Stone and the Opal Amulet. He can spam Spirit Leeches. He can summon a unit of Crypt Ghouls, and he's also got the basically the free regrowth with the Ghoul King of Ashuran and some armor piercing. So we'll get the battle underway. Obviously there aren't any super long range you know, nothing like a cannon or warp lightning cannon or a plague claw catapult, even weapons teams or even any mortars. So I can sort of take my time here, get nice and positioned around the flanks. You'll see here I do put a breath attack from the Terrorgeist into the Blight Scab. I recognize that this is a pretty high value target and something I want to get off the field pretty quickly. So breath attacks obviously from Terrorgeists better at getting down large single entities, but a nice shot into the flank there does peel off some unit models, 19 unit models in fact, and a good chunk of their HP, so a good use of that. We're actually getting a Howling Warp Gale on the Strigoi here. Good idea, but probably a little bit premature. He does have the Globadiers here, so this is also an overcast version. Probably might have been better to get both the Globadiers or wait until I come in a little bit closer and get down. Not going to be a lot of damage going down on him, particularly as he has regeneration. He'll heal through a lot of the damage over time as the zombies come in, and they'll start to meet the Skaven Slave Spears. The Tithe here are doing their business. I managed to actually get a summon down on top of these units of Plague Wind Globadiers, so managed to actually mitigate probably a couple of volleys which he would have gotten off with the Overcast going down. And now the Vargeist, sensing that this is a good chance to maybe break the Blight Scab's Plague Pack with a couple of cycle charges and then perhaps get into the Poison Wind Mortars, proving to be a pretty juicy target for me. So I do jump down with both. We'll see, obviously, as the Warlock Engineer gets engaged here and does get into combat, we will see the Warpstone Armor effect go down on all my troops. But the battle lines have well and truly clashed. We've got the Hex Wraiths over here. They were doing some cycle charging, but I didn't want the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers getting any real value. And unfortunately, good play by my opponent here, having the Poison Wind Globadiers on guard mode. And the Fellbats just really can't chew through 100 armor as quick as I'd like. And some great value getting down here in the pit fight. This pit fight, yeah, I'm pretty happy to have the Blight Scabs routing, and as we see here, quite purposely just holding back my Black Knights. There's no need to commit them at the moment. They will be coming around here. Even the Conic Stone Stalkers, you know, kind of feel that I don't need to sort of just oversaturate. He does have Warp Lightning on his Warlock Engineer, so don't want to just send these guys into the fight where they're just going to be more bodies and not really get effective animations. As we see another breath attack going down into the Storm Vermin with Halberds, another unit that I figure in the late game are going to be quite effective at dealing with the Vargeist, dealing with my Strigoi, and obviously being unbreakable, they will fight to the last. The Hell Pit here is probably just struggling to get through the Hex Raid's physical resistance, and I feel just with the mass that I can pin him in place here so that at least he can't sort of dominate my Strigoi Vampire Lord and double up on him with both Hell Pits if he does decide to land. And I sense that having taken this fight with both my Vargeists, who have suffered a lot of damage, I do decide to pop a Cryptical down. So if we can try and maybe get these guys rally to flee and be chased off. But we see here one thing in review of this game that I really did poorly was identify this Warlock Engineer as a pretty high value target. He has really gotten a lot of value. I'm not sure if it actually goes towards their value at the end of the game, but his Warpstone Armor, as you see here, is really dealing a lot of damage to my infantry. The Tithe obviously have been fighting since the start here, but he's just wearing them down. It's part of the reason I didn't want to sort of send too much of my infantry in at once, but the Sturmsmen, unfortunately with the Rival Hide Talisman, their stats are pretty average, but they're going to hold most of the infantry in place. And now we have a big opportunity with a lot of this stuff sort of routed and out of the fight to really make sure that it has no ability to come back in. These Poison Wind Globadiers are going to shatter momentarily. Likewise, these ones, they're going to be chased off pretty well by the Black Knights here. Blight Scabs are going to shatter, which is big for me because Terror now can cause perhaps some issues. And now we're just going to have to basically just be pretty constant with our cycle charging, not leaving them in the fight too long. I probably am lingering here a little bit, so we see just more of this Warpstone Armor going down. We'll have to check at the end of the game whether he got his value, but we do have the Ghoul King ready to pop down here on top of, I believe he will go after the Hell Pit Abomination here. I'm not sure what he's doing here, swimming, sort of just going in a few circles. But the Hex Raids, once again, physical resistance, obviously anti-large on the Council Guard. Their armor piercing is not going to mean much, and their anti-large will be mitigated in at least some way by the physical resistance, as we get this Hell Pit Abomination here, nice and isolated, pinned in with the Black Knights, damage obviously on the charge with the charge bonus of the Vargeists, and unfortunately the Warpstorm Scroll has he's actually doing a lot of damage, again a lot of area of effect damage to my units in these engagements. The other Hell Pit is picking a fight with this Necromancer, and that is not a fight my Necromancer wants to take. We see here in the matter of a few seconds, he has been absolutely obliterated. He needs to get out of there. I'm a bit slow on the micro there, but we're starting to get to the point now where we can maybe outright kill, or at least rout and chase off one of these Hell Pits. As we see, it does indeed rout and does die and proxy its Skaven Slave summon. So we've got, having cleaned up both units of Poison Wind Globadiers, which would have been very effective here in just dealing a lot of sort of damage over time to a lot of different units. We've got the Black Knights back in, and we've just basically been constantly casting zombie summons on top of these Council Guard, and they're starting to get pretty tattered to the point where they're not a huge factor. So on the balance of power now, obviously it's slightly in my favour, probably because I have a reasonably healthy Lord. In fact, he is basically full strength, and I think has a little bit of a way to go, and I don't think I've even had to pop the Ghoul King of Ashuran for the regrowth type effect yet. The Assassin here is being hunted down by the Hex Raids. I don't want him to come back. Don't want another sort of Assassin's Trophy going down and nuking any of my stats. We have managed to kill obviously one of the Hell Pit Abominations, and the Grey Seer is getting very, very low. But again, a missed opportunity by me to pull the Strigoi Vampire Lord out, as I do pop the Opal Amulet as he goes in for a bit of an Alpha Strike against the Hell Pit. This guy fled and should never have come back, and we see now once again the Warpstone Armor, just a fantastic addition to this force in grindy sort of games like this, where it does sort of degenerate to a pit fight. Again, I am going to see this Assassin coming out. You'll see the Hex Raves pivoting out to him once again. The Grey Seer is broken, and I will be hunting down the Grey Seer here, sensing that if I maybe do kill the Lord, I can push the balance of power fully into my favour. But I suppose I thought with the Königstad Stalkers fighting the Warlock Engineer that he might die. He might be overwhelmed soon. They're not great combatants. They want to sit and fight in pit fights with pretty crappy infantry. But if they are isolated, they can die quite quickly. The Strigoi Ghoul King will shatter the Grey Seer of Plague, which does in turn lead to army losses. And thankfully, this just constant damage from the Warpstone Armor will end as the battle ends. So look at that, 119 kills, nearly 15,000 damage dealt. Again, not a lot of value because he is obviously draining a lot of low tier infantry, particularly zombies. Even the Königstad Stalkers, they only cost 500 gold. But it's a good little not centerpiece, but a good little addition to the force. I actually like the amount of reliable damage that this Skaven force had. Obviously, with the damage over time, we were able to shut down the Poison Wind Globadiers quite well. These ones did okay. These ones got pretty well shut down. But the Warpstorm Scroll, the Warpstone Armor, combined with obviously the Rivalhide Talisman and those kinds of effects, had a lot of and even I guess the immune to psychology that's imparted by Blight Scabs. There's a lot of layered effects here in a quite a narrow force. Obviously, Hell Pits, as we said, they're probably one of the best single entity monsters in the game. Probably could make the case that they didn't quite do as well as they sometimes do, but they're just really, really hard to kill. They take up a lot of your own micro, a lot of your own elements to ensure that they do die, or when they rout, they stay routed and don't come back. But yeah, the Vargeists, they're still a tough unit to make work because they are quite squishy. And I guess I didn't really have a lot of sort of invocation type. Obviously, you do give up invocation with the Strigoi. I just had the Spirit Leech and the Ghoul summon, and I decided to just go for the Zombie summon with the Necromancer and try and rely on his sort of area of effect regen as well as the Corpse Cart. But overall, a bit of a fun list, a bit of a flying theme, a bit of an air force with the Strigoi Ghoul Lord providing a good sort of, I guess, focal point. The Sternsmen obviously are really, really good against the Skaven. They just cut through infantry for days. They have regen in their own right. Cornish Stonestalkers, basically, I had a bit of money left to upgrade at the end of the sort of the army selection. So instead of putting chevrons into things like zombies and stuff like that, I did upgrade to the tire. Then I think I upgraded this. This was a unit of skeleton spears. So I decided to take the Cornish Stonestalkers. But again, poison, handy effect to have. Like Hexwraiths, actually really like Hexwraiths in this matchup because the mobile terror and the physical resistance can be very hard for the Skaven to deal with. They do have a number of ways to deal magic damage, but I think if you're on point with your micro, they can actually be pretty backbreaking. And then the Black Knights just did what they needed to do as a backline sweeper. Once we managed to rout the Globadiers, we just made sure they didn't come back. Likewise with the plague pack to make sure that any terror that we do have, and we do have a bit in this list, obviously with the Hexwraiths and the Strigoi, could take effect, and we could get some terror outs perhaps in the late game. So, a pretty decent game. I know I haven't obviously uploaded for a little while, but good to be back and casting games. And like I said at the start, there'll be more as the year ends, and much more to come in 2021. So stick around, and thanks for checking the battle out. Until next time, take care.